In this video, we're going to cover what soul manifestation is compared to mental manifestation. And did you know that there's actually a distinction? You may have seen my previous video where I did a distinction. I explained the different planes of existence. And this is where I highlighted how we are physical, we are mental, we are emotional, spiritual, we are soul, planes of existences all at the same time that makes us who we are. And all these levels of consciousness or planes of existence are simultaneously working within us. So we're not just emotional and then mental and then physical. You see what I mean? Not one is better than the other either. Altogether, they compose who we are. We are spiritual beings having a physical experience, right? And we direct this physical experience with our mind. I mean, how else are we as spiritual beings going to learn from this great school called Earth unless we have vehicles to live on this planet, which is our physical bodies, so that we can participate in this beautiful classroom of ours, right? So note that there's a huge part in our learning in terms of our purpose of being here and being alive. So we are spiritual beings having a physical experience directed by thought, and we live in a thought universe. One of our greatest lessons as spirits living this human life is learning how to manifest consciously. And in my humble opinion, to become a skillful, effective manifester means that we are growing on a soul level. Why? Because it requires mastery. Ultimately, we are here to master. So first, let's talk about manifestation itself, right? Let's come to some clarity about this. What is it exactly? I am here in this particular video to share the distinction between mental and soul manifestation, but first, let's look at manifestation itself. I want you to consider one thing, that everything in the universe is either visible or invisible. Like, for example, if a person has an idea in their mind, the idea exists and it is invisible, correct? When this idea is nurtured and acted upon, it then becomes visible or physically real. Like someone could have an idea of a chair, just an idea, but until they actually make the chair, until they actually take action or purchase the chair, then that idea remains an idea, right? Until we actually act upon it, then it becomes a physical manifestation. Another example would be, let's say, a person who has lived their life and then comes to the end of their life and passes on. They were once visible and now they are invisible. So that personality was physically real in a physical body, but when the soul leaves the physical body, the personality is now invisible and moved on to spirit, you see? So everything in the universe is moving in and out of form and in and out of form. This in and out of form is also mirror reflected in nature, like the cycles of nature, kind of related to the cycles of birth and rebirth, if that is part of your belief system, okay? So this in and out of form spiritual cycle is also mirror reflected in nature, like the cycles of nature. Like, for example, if you have water that's in a liquid state, you add heat to it, right? The molecules, like, they get faster and faster, and then it becomes steam. Then it becomes into a gas form. You don't necessarily see gas, right? It evaporates into the air, so it's invisible. Then those molecules can condense again, and it can form into a cloud in the sky, and then condense even further, and then the cloud releases the water as rain, and we see it again. That invisible becomes visible in the form of rain. And that liquid, when it comes back down to the earth, can also freeze when the temperature gets really, really cold, and it becomes ice, right? And then from the ice, it can warm up again, become liquid again, and so on, so on, and so on. So just note that everything in the universe, as also mirror reflected in the physical sciences, in nature, is moving in and out of form, in and out of invisibility and visibility. So this is what we mean by manifesting. We're bringing the invisible into the visible. The interesting thing is that majority of the population are manifesting, right? Taking from the invisible to the visible, very unconsciously versus consciously. Okay, so there's this distinction. We're all manifesting something. Just look at what's happening in your life and your business. But we're either doing it unconsciously, meaning by default manifestation, or we're doing it consciously, okay, meaning we're more consciously aware we're manifesting, or even better, we are super consciously manifesting. When we are super consciously manifesting, we find that what becomes visible happens with a lot of flow and a lot of ease with super conscious levels of consciousness. So on that note, you may want to check out my video where I explain the different levels of mind, the conscious, subconscious, unconscious, and superconscious levels of mind. But moving on. So typically when someone gets turned on to manifestation, maybe they saw The Secret, right? Like that was a big awakening for humanity around the planet when that documentary film was released by Rhonda Byrne. All these people got turned on to manifestation. Usually when someone is very new to manifestation, they start off with mental manifestation. So it could be a person who's very open-minded, seeking, knowledge. Maybe they're already spiritually inclined, and they always believed, they actually observed. I was this person. They observed, oh my gosh, when I really focus on something and I really feel it to be true, it just happens in my physical reality. I remember coming to realizations of this in my early years in grade school. I would start manifesting things just by really focusing on my thoughts and feeling something. So a person who just loves spirituality and always believed in manifestation, they can have a manifestation routine that they follow. Okay. Now there can also be an entrepreneur, let's say, who wants to quantum leap to the next level. You may be aware of quantum leaping, this term. So what they want is they want to manifest a goal that seems outside of their level of awareness and logic, their stretch goal. This is a goal that they would absolutely love to have, and yet in their own present logic, they don't know how to get it. So guess what? They're going to manifest it. But how do they do it? They do it by tapping into the more spiritual side of their nature, if they're aware enough, okay? By tapping into their spiritual side of their nature, they create the manifestation, at least as best as they can. But this usually takes trial and error and a lot of spiritual unfolding for this person. I'll explain a little bit more on that. So when they start off, like say this entrepreneur wants to manifest their quantum leap, this person will then use all the mindset tools that they have learned, such as affirmations, visualization, and meditation. Yet it may be that things don't change too much. It's just that they're kind of like incremental gains. So this is an example of manifesting using the mental plane, which is good, but the emotional plane of consciousness, level of mind, is tapped into a little bit, but it's not really mastered yet. Okay? So they can think about this manifestation, and because it's lacking on the emotional level, they don't really act on the manifestation. Because if the emotional level is not really dialed in, the body doesn't follow, it doesn't act. So the results do not move into motion as much. You must remember that in order to manifest, you have to move, right? It's almost like chess with the universe. You got to make your move, and the universe will also meet you halfway. And more, actually. There's another thing that could happen with the manifestation journey. A person can affirm, visualize, right? and they can also act as well. They can, there's a big mindset out there of like, really go after it, hustle hard, hustle and grind type mentality. This is what I'm describing right now. And they do this because they know intellectually this is what needs to be done. You got to do something. You got to act, right? And that belief system actually creates what we call an energy loop. And you may want to look at my video on energy loops. Even though they are implementing as much as they know how, and they're acting, things do not change much despite the hustle and grind. And on top of it, what happens is this person tends to experience a lot of lack of time. So they're very stressed. And why? Because they're so busy hustling and grinding. So there is an imbalance. They're leaning more towards that very male energy, that go energy, where the balance is with the female energy, right? Where the attractive force is cultivated and developed from within and without attachment. So please note my video on detaching. So instead of moving so outward, this person moves more inward and really becomes a magnet if they cultivate their feminine energy. They really become the magnet for what they desire, and they attract all the people, money, resources, happenings, and connections to manifest their vision based on their purpose. And I just want to make a note here that you may want to look at my video on purpose, vision, and goals. Either way, both examples are more lateral type of incremental manifestations, right? It's different from a quantum, real energetic jump in results. And we're talking about jumps in results that don't require a lot of energy. There's a lot of conservation of energy. In other words, when you're really manifesting more on the soul level, I'll explain more about this in a little bit, you'll actually experience more synchronicity happening in your life. And whatever you put out, it returns back to you many timefold because there's a flow. So there's a greater return for energy given. So usually when there's more of a lateral incremental result when implementing all mindset type methodologies and tools, it means that the soul is still learning a lesson. So the soul is being held in a holding pattern. And if there's a holding pattern, the soul hasn't learned its lesson yet. And this is where soul manifestation comes in, my friend. If there are lateral changes in life and incremental changes, and yet you're implementing everything you know what to do at this point, you can consider it as a plateau. This holding pattern is actually a blessing in disguise. And I want you to know this. It doesn't mean that manifestation doesn't work, okay? It means that on a soul level, you're being prepared for the next level. This is why it's a blessing in disguise. Because you're actually ready to manifest from the soul level and not just purely from the mental plane. You're graduating from the mental level. It means, in my humble opinion, that you are actually an old soul. And the universe is actually orchestrating this situation for you, putting you in this holding pattern so that you will evolve on the soul level because it means you're ready for it. And this is why you're watching this video in the first place, right? Soul manifestation means in order to get to the next level in life and business, you are going to double down on your lessons. And please take note of what I'm saying here. You're going to double down on your lessons. You learning your lessons will move you forward in your manifestation so much faster than any hustle and grind. It also means you're going to most likely break generational traumas and patterns that no longer serve you and your family tree, that no longer serve you and your community, that no longer serve you and even your whole nation that you're a part of, or ethnicity, right? Because all these generational traumas and in the family tree, even national type karma and traumas, they're going to be healed through your own individual healing journey. It means you're going to double down on your emotional intelligence. So the emotional plane of consciousness, okay, is very much honed in when someone is manifesting on a soul level. It also means detaching from what is happening outside of you with greater skill. We don't really realize how much the outside, meaning what we observe with our 5 senses, really controls us. When we start manifesting on a soul level, we start mastering not being controlled by the outside, okay? Because where you are drawing all supply, it's not from the outside. You're drawing all supply purely from what is inside of you in connection to a higher power. And whatever that higher power is for you. That is not for me to define for you. You know what that is. Either you call it the quantum realm, whether you call it infinite intelligence or God or universe or the one mind, whatever it is, it's all between you and this higher power. And this is a skill that takes awareness and conscious masterly application. This isn't about learning more things, you see, because that's purely mental. This is about embodiment and the integration of whatever information you have already gathered and studied. This is about alignment. And this, my friend, is also about really understanding yourself on an unconscious level. Soul manifestation is all about discovering your next level identity as well. And spoiler alert, you will discover this person more and more along your journey. So be prepared to not have all the answers in the beginning, and be prepared to have the answers shown to you along the way. And I say, congratulations for your course correction. Remember, this is a blessing in disguise. If you're in a holding pattern, it's a blessing in disguise. So get ready to expand in ways you probably didn't know was even possible for you. I will see you next time in the next video. Like and subscribe.